Welcome to the Cunningham Piano Show, where we explore life between the keys. I'm your host, Hugh Sung, and I'm with the incredible pianist Frederic Chiu here at the Hartt School of Music in Connecticut. Frederic, thank you so much.
My great pleasure. It was so nice to meet in person.
I know.
Finally, after all this.
We've talked virtually, and we've known each other over the internet, of course, from your recordings, and we play your videos in the store.
Thank you.
Meet you in person.
And I admire what you've accomplished in your amazing life, and it's just great to be associated and to have this moment.
We're just going to have a mutual admiration society
right.
here. So, Frederic, we're actually here because you're demonstrating an incredible technology with the piano that you're sitting in front of. This is a Yamaha Disklavier.
Yes.
And we're going to be performing a remote lesson from here, the Hartt School in Connecticut, to a school, actually the Yamaha Artist Services in Moscow. That's right, we're connecting from here to Russia.
Students of the Moscow Conservatory, the famed Moscow Conservatory.
This is incredible. So I just said we're connecting. Can you help us understand what remote lesson actually is and how it's perhaps different from a typical Skype lesson? Because as you and I both know, more and more people are turning to the internet to learn.
Absolutely.
A lot of kids go to YouTube, kids and adults, they go to YouTube to watch. You can find endless amounts of lessons to learn almost anything.
Which is an incredible mind shift
Yes.
to think that education doesn't have to happen in a school, doesn't have to happen in a classroom. You can learn basically anywhere, anytime. And that's the great thing about the internet. What we lose with that is some of the immediacy and interpersonal kind of stuff that unfortunately can only happen person to person or with objects, with things that are in front of you. The piano is one of those inventions that really it's hard to capture the sound of a piano, the effect of the vibrations of the piano in a recording. I've tried a lot. I have almost 30 recordings out there. I'm very happy with them. But it's a different experience than being with a piano in a room and having somebody playing that piano and having the vibrations actually making you move. Anybody who's gone to a rock concert standing in front of the speakers, you know that feeling. That can blow out your ears. It's not recommended, at least I don't. But standing in front of a piano, lying down under a piano, an amazing experience. It's impactful. And that's something that we can actually capture and send across the internet with the Disklavier technology and the remote lesson technology.
So in a nutshell, describe what's happening when we connect two pianos.
So let's go a step back. What is a Disklavier? It's actually like a player piano. It records not the sound of what's being played, but the motion of the keys and the motion of the pedals. And then with magnets, lasers, all that kind of stuff, it reproduces those motions so that a piano that's being played on Disklavier will actually reproduce that playing. So the sound is coming out of the soundboard of the piano and creating those actual vibrations.
As you said, it's not an audio recording.
It's not an audio recording.
It's the physical movements of the piano replaying
Correct.
exactly as it was originally played.
Correct. And so here's the amazing thing. The piano is such an amazing invention that within the key going down and the mechanism that's embedded in the mechanical action is a whole bunch of nuance and control and precision, and that's reproduced in every piano key out there, which means that the actual signal to move the key up and down is such a small piece of data. It's not like capturing the audio and all the waves and all the harmonics and things. It's a very simple, just a few numbers, which means that it's very easy and fast to send this data across the internet to be translated by the Disklavier on the other end, reproducing those gestures, very simple, just reading the numbers and boom, boom, let's move this at this speed, let's move this key at this speed at this time, boom, 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 all these things remote controlled. And it produces that amazing nuance, control, precision of sound that is inherent in the piano. That's really the key to why this works and why it works so much better than audio recording. It's because the signal is so low bandwidth that you can send it across the internet and not lose anything. Wow. You can send the signal itself across the internet, and the other piano will respond exactly like this piano will respond to the Disklavier technology.
Well, let's take a moment and let's actually see you teaching a remote lesson connecting this piano from Connecticut and see what it's like to experience this live with some students from the Moscow Conservatory.
Thank you. Hugh, thank you very much. It was wonderful playing. You have, at least according to what I'm hearing here, very fine control of the piano, of dynamics, phrasing. It's wonderful. So congratulations on that. What I'd like to use this nocturne to demonstrate is a technique that I call surgical pedaling, and surgical pedaling specifically for the shift pedal. This is something I've done videos on, and it's a use of the left pedal that, for some reason, I haven't seen this in any of the pedaling books, but it seems like a very natural use of the left pedal, and it comes into play in all kinds of repertoire, particularly Chopin, and particularly this nocturne, which is why I chose this to start with. What's very interesting about using this Disklavier technology is that I can see, Hugh, I can see exactly when you're pedaling, because the pedals are moving here. So I can see exactly what notes you're pressing the left pedal down and what notes you're lifting them up. And it makes it very clear for me how you are using the pedal. So if you look at my hand as kind of an example of the surface of the hammer, when you have 3 strings and the hammer hitting the 3 strings always in the same spot, eventually it creates a nice little groove in those 3 spots. And when you look at a nicely used, a nicely conditioned piano, you see the 3 grooves where the strings hit. So this is what surgical pedaling is, finding the notes in the music that you want to paint, that you want to play with a red color, and find the notes that are right next to it that you want to play with a blue color, so that you can see the contrast between the two. Is that clear? Do you understand that concept? Yeah. So, for example, the opening here. So I didn't use the left pedal at all. So what are the 2 things that what are 2 things that we could paint in different colors? One, of course, is the chord. And the other is the melody. There are many ways many different spectrums that we can use to distinguish these 2 things as different things. Chopin helps us a lot. He writes the melody up here in this part of the keyboard, and everything else, even though it's jumping around, it's the rest. So that's one way already we know that this is something and this is something else. Another way we do it is by playing these notes a little bit louder so that they stand out as something. So that's a very common technique, but it also forces the melody to be in a higher volume range. You can't play very, very soft, because then the left hand covers it up. And strangely, it says mezza voce here, so everything should be kind of soft. So it reduces our ability to use dynamics to separate these 2 things. So using the left pedal to help us separate these 2 groups of notes into 2 separate things, we're going to play the melody with one color and the accompaniment with another color. So for example, you can watch the left pedal now when I play the first chord. You see how the coordination of the pedal corresponds with the melody. Whenever I'm playing a melody note that I want to play with a hard stick, I have the pedal up. And when I play an accompaniment chord that's by itself, I play it with the pedal down because I'm switching to a soft mallet to play those. Yeah? Would you like to try that just very slowly? See if it works for you. Yes. That you played with the pedal down. You didn't lift it up in time to play. Excellent.
You know, that was just a small sample from a very intense class that you gave. And what was really amazing for me is that as I was immersed in the experience, it really felt as if the student was right here. And particularly your emphasis on pedal technique.
Yes, and seeing the pedal go up and down, it's really quite amazing.
Some of those moments where you were actually showing really subtle sound differences that honestly I don't think you can capture with a microphone.
Correct. It's
really.
atmospheric. It's the environment that we're affecting with the piano, and you can't capture that with a microphone. And
you can actually see the pedal motions more clearly because you don't have a foot in front of it. You can actually see the pedal.
Exactly. That I learned as I'm doing these remote lessons. I realize there's actually a benefit to doing this because the student is not in the way. Yeah. I can see the keys moving without the fingers in the way. I can see the pedals moving exactly where they're pressing and how far they're pressing. It's actually quite amazing.
That's incredible. And boy, your artistry shines through so beautifully. And I could see the light bulbs going on those students. It was a whole new concept of playing and applying a whole different kind of pedal technique. And it's amazing that we can do it from thousands of miles apart.
We can do that, yeah. And that's what we all as pianists want to do, is connect on these amazing sounds, these amazing pieces that we play, and just exploring deeper and deeper.
It's interesting because, and I've thought of this. I know the internet, generally speaking, especially in our data-driven society, tends to drive people apart. We hear of kids that are isolated on their tablets and gadgets and stuff. And the interesting thing I find about this analog internet approach is that, in a sense, it forces us to connect on a more visceral level than your typical just video per se.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the piano is this wonderful thing that draws people in. A single person sitting in front of this thing that doesn't move around, it's not intimidating. Play all this amazing music, it draws people in. And that's really always been my focus as a performer, as a pianist. I created an arts nonprofit to bring people together in kind of salon experiences. I play the piano in intimate settings. I want people to come together around the piano. It's what it was made for.
And speaking to that, in terms of connecting with people, now you're connecting with students. And congratulations, I know you're now here at the Hartt School as one of the faculty members, as well as Carnegie Mellon.
Well, as Carnegie Mellon, full-time professor there, yes.
My goodness.
Very exciting, especially Carnegie Mellon is marrying that technology and art kind of thing. Hartt School was its great long tradition of producing wonderful music that affects the community. So I'm very proud to be in both places.
And you're really the ideal person in both of these places. Hartt School having the innovation to think about having this kind of a piano to expose their students to this kind of technology. And of course, Carnegie Mellon being the legendary engineering school with a top-tier music program.
Top-tier music and arts program, yeah.
And what a better piano professor than somebody like you, who's always been. You actually worked with Yamaha very closely to help them develop their Disklavier.
I have. Well, I did have a computer science degree, when I did a bachelor's degree. But yeah, I'm obsolete. That was way back, before.
So.
Yeah, well, But in terms of the marriage of technology and music, I think that is the future. That has been the present. And I've worked with Yamaha for 30 years, and I've seen the development of all these hybrid technologies, the whole spectrum from wonderful acoustic pianos to wonderful pure digital pianos and every kind of combination of those things in between. And I've pushed the envelope, I've pushed the engineers, I've pushed the Yamaha people to think about different ways to use these technologies, not to show off technology, but to create music, to create musical experiences, to bring people together. Disklavier, avant-grand, the grand touch, the trans-acoustic, all of these different things allow for a different kind of expression, and all of those can be explored and should be explored.
Frederic, thank you so much for sharing your incredible mind and imagination and just your inspiration for audiences, for your fans, for the students here and around the world. And what a delight to finally get to work with you in person.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been a great pleasure.
So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe so we can let you know whenever we have new ones. For Cunningham Piano, I'm Hugh Sung with the great Frederic Chiu. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.